Above us is the 600-year-old city. What about the rest of it? Again, the magic of modern technology. These lights show the tunnel that goes underneath the city, the full length of the wall. One more interesting thing before we proceed. Down to the western wall, at the bottom of the steps. Where's the ground? It seems like we're underground, but really we're under a city and high above the ground. The ground is 50 feet below us. Remember, we looked down at the mikveh before. That's these orange lights showing you where the natural ground is. Take a look at the valley, sloping upwards from down here in the south all the way up there into the north. That's the natural ground, the bedrock. So we begin our tour high above the ground, and as we're walking, the ground level is rising up. We're going pretty straight, but the ground, the mountain slopes upwards, and we're going to reach this point right over here, where the walls, the stones of the wall of the kotel are built directly on top of the natural floor of the mountain. And then we're going to continue to the very end underneath the mountain. Everyone come on down the stairs so you can get a closer look and see the western wall. These are the same stones from the temple from 2,000 years ago. So try and spread out a little bit so everyone can see. This is the kotel. These are the stones from the western wall. How do I know that? So an archaeologist can tell the difference between these stones down here and those stones up there on top. I'm going to make you all into archaeologists now, okay? You tell me with your own eyes, what differences do you see between these stones here on the bottom, the original stones from the temple, and those stones there on top, which were added by later conquerors after the Romans destroyed the top part of the wall? Size. Okay, you notice these are much bigger, those are smaller. What else? You notice the holes here. Very good. What else? Wait, I don't know if everyone up there can see, so take a few steps down, spread out a little bit so everybody can see. Thank you. Take a few steps down. Yeah, what else? Okay, that looks rockier. It's jagged and not straight, whereas these are polished and smooth. They put a lot of work into the stones of the temple to polish them, make them very, very smooth. What else? You notice anything else? The design. You notice how these are cut very straight and exact. And they're chiseled out along the edges, creating this picture frame look around every stone. This is rectangle. This is a special design that's found on every stone here. And they're cut so straight and exact, one stone is put right next to the other, one right on top of the other. There's no glue holding them together, there's no mortar. Stones on top are cut very, very uneven. There's mortar holding them together. That was the technology they had 1,000 years ago, or 2,000 years ago. They used this dry masonry, with the stones cut very, very straight. Now, I don't know if you noticed how big these stones were. You notice that these are quite big. Okay, I'm going to ask Stephen and Jack to volunteer. I'm going to ask one of you to walk down to the edge of the stone over here, and ask the other one to walk down to the other end of the stone over here. Okay, a few more steps. Stop right there, stop right there. You keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Everyone come on down so you can see how far apart these brothers are standing. Right there, on opposite ends of one single stone. 45 feet long. This is how I get my kids to stop fighting, by the way. Okay? I'm just kidding. I'm sure kids are great. Everyone can see. Step in over so everyone can see. Step down, please. Step down, please. So everyone can see. Everyone can see. You got to see how far apart these guys are standing. 45 feet long. One single stone. It's longer than a bus. This was cut out of the mountain. It was put here in the wall. And this is quite heavy. Anybody want to guess how heavy it is? 3 tons? Higher. Higher. 20 tons? Higher. 50. Go ahead, 60. Okay, let me give you a perspective. These numbers are so huge. Okay, you probably flew here in the 747 jumbo jet airplane, right? Something similar to that. That weighs about 200 tons. This stone is estimated at 600 tons. 3 times heavier than an airplane. 600 tons. This is one of the biggest stones in the world. Not just then, but today. This is one of the 10 biggest stones in the world. Google it when you get home. It's a Wikipedia. But the archaeologists have guessed, have estimated that perhaps they're supporting a massive structure on the other side of this wall. Remember, this wall is the outer wall of the Temple Mount complex. On the other side of this wall, we've given sovereignty to the Muslims. and they won't allow any archaeological excavations. So we don't know exactly what's on the other side of it. But they think that there must be some massive structure that's leaning on this really heavy stone, and this is providing extra support and stability. It also helps stabilize the entire wall. This isn't the bottom. The bottom of the ground is another 30 feet below us. So this stone is helping stabilize the lower part of the wall, and it helps support the upper part of the wall. The wall continued up another 50 feet, maybe more. Down here, and the air was up there. But remember, that's the house up there, and this is underneath someone's house. That's someone's basement. It's not a bathroom, but a water cistern. When they were thirsty 600 years ago, they didn't have running water. You couldn't go to the store and buy a plastic bottle. What did you do? You opened the hole in your floor, and you lowered down a bucket to here, and this was all filled with water. You can see the plaster on the walls. You notice that? Plaster along the walls to make sure the water doesn't seep out through the wall. And the holes in the ceiling, that's how you know you're in a water cistern. Just like I was describing to you before, people ask me, what are those holes in the hotel? That's so they could attach the plaster so they can build a water cistern. So we're going to, hold on a second, we're going to see another couple of water cisterns just like this. I'm telling you now because it's a very narrow tunnel. I won't be able to talk to the whole group. So I'm telling you now what to look for. We're going to go through 2 rooms like this, a little bit smaller, like you see the holes in the ceiling, you'll see the plaster in the walls, you'll know you're in a water system. Underneath us is the ground, but another 30, 40 feet below. So what are we on top of for those 30, 40 feet? All the stones that the Romans threw off the top of the wall. All this rubble has been sitting here for 2,000 years. Most of this has not yet been excavated. And we'll see that through a window. The next window has been emptied out, and we'll see all the way down to the ground. And along our right side, this is the wall from the temple. If I forget the old Jerusalem, may I forget my right hand. Jewish people, throughout the long and bitter exile, wherever we were scattered all over the world, we never forgot Jerusalem. And here's the wall of our temple, along our right side, all the way to the end. Here we go. Okay, Stephen, help me. Once together. Count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3, lift. You don't feel bad, okay? I've been doing these tours for a year and a half so far. No one's been able to do it. But it's not glued to the floor. Okay, it's a couple of tons. It's pretty heavy. But really too small to be a building block. That's the amazing thing. These are much, much smaller than the blocks that we saw before. This one on the floor, this one right here, this one over here. Beautifully polished and smooth for some reason, but it's less than a foot wide. It's too small to be a building block. So what do you think they're for? We found these here in the excavation. What do you say? What are they for? I guess it's the floor, exactly. These are paving stones. Look under your feet. This is the road. This is the sidewalk from 2,000 years ago. Stones just like this that paved this road. Take a look at the picture. The road begins a mile down here, Duffy, in the valley. It climbs up the mountain, all the way to Mount Moriah. It continues along this side of the temple, along the western wall. This original road from 2,000 years ago. Continues all the way along, underneath the bridge. It continues right here, underneath our feet, and goes all the way until this. What's this? This is the mountain. This is the bedrock. We're standing underground right now. This whole part of the mountain is carved out in order to build the road. But this road was never finished. Let's take a look. They were in the process of cutting out this mountain. See the chisel marks here. You see how they were in the middle of cutting out this huge chunk of stone. And then they would smooth it, polish it, use it as a building block. Right now you can see the difference between the original bedrock and the smooth and polished stone that was built and cut. And after they moved this huge Where's the top of the mountain? High above our heads. So we're inside a mountain. Can you guys hear me back there? So when was this tunnel carved through the mountain? Well, 20 years ago, the archaeologists came here and discovered this tunnel. But they didn't cut it through. They discovered this tunnel that was carved through a long time ago. So when, and why, and by whom, I'll tell you when I can stand a little more comfortably at our last stop. We looked down at a mikvah before, but a mikvah doesn't need to be this big. A mikvah needs to be big enough for a person to fit it. This is huge. This is huge. What is this? It's a huge pool of water that was probably not for a mikvah, but for people to drink. This is like those tiny water cisterns we saw, but this isn't a personal water cistern under your house. This was a huge reservoir to provide drinking water for all the hundreds of thousands of pilgrims coming to the temple for the holidays. And this huge pool collected all the rain. It was open to the sky until the Romans came and built this huge Roman arch above our heads, covering over the pool, and also cutting this pool in half. The pool continues on the other side of that wall. It continues on the other side of this wall. It's 10 times bigger than what you see here. Hanukkah. Some of us are familiar with the story of Judah Maccabee and his brothers, the priestly family of the Hasmoneans, fighting against Greek persecution. Before the Romans, there was the Greek Empire that conquered Jerusalem and took over our temple and filled it with their idols and forced the Jews to worship their pagan idolatry. This was perhaps the first battle ever fought in history for freedom of religion. The Maccabees, the Hasmoneans, fought back valiantly and took back our temple, cleaned it and purified it, and then carved that tunnel through the mountain, the one that we just walked through to bring the water to the temple. 200 years later, when the entire Temple Mount was expanded, then they dug this even bigger pool, providing even more water. And so we reached the end of our tour. We close with water. As we began, looking at the mikvah as a symbol of purity and holiness, now we see water as a symbol of social justice, of caring and providing for others, a symbol of renewal as the water continues to drip down even today. This is also a symbol of the hope that Jerusalem is everlasting and continues to be, and has the potential to be, a unifying force for peace in the world. You know, the Jewish prophets have brought the legacy of the Bible to the world. The prophet Isaiah, who walked on these streets, whose words are quoted on the walls of the United Nations. Lo yisagoy el goy cherem, lo yilmedu od milchama. The slogan of the UN. Nation shall not raise up sword against nation. There will be war no more. That is the hope and the vision of Jerusalem that we continue to pray for. Every single day, not once or twice, but about 15 times a day, we say the following prayer. This will close. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. May God, who creates peace in heaven above, help us to build peace here on earth below. If you'd like to join me, Oseh.